This here is Shore Street East in Cleveland. Back in the 19th century, this was the centre of town. There was a school and church and shops and blacksmith and all that stuff right about here. But by the 1940s, the centre of Cleveland had shifted to here. Since the 1940s, this has been the CBD of Cleveland. So I'm going to take a heritage walk. So I'm starting down here in the CBD part, the town of Cleveland, and work my way up all the way to Cleveland Point. Behind me is Cleveland Railway Station. That was opened in 1987. However, just near here, there used to be another train station, and that was known as Raby Bay train station. I don't know the exact location of where it was, but it's just south of the current station, which would probably put it just over there near the roundabout. Raby Bay train station was opened in 1914 and closed in 1960. That's when the whole line from Lota to Cleveland was torn up. Across the road from me, just over there, is the Sands Hotel. It was opened in 1929, but as the Raby Bay Hotel. The name changed in 1959 to the Sands Hotel, mainly because Raby Bay then was associated with swamps and mangroves and sandflies and mozzies. So they changed it to the much nicer Sands Hotel. This is Raby Bay Harbour Park. I have been to this park before a few years ago. My dad had just passed away and he wanted his ashes scattered at sea. We boarded the yacht over there at that pontoon and sailed out through the canals out into the bay, and we scattered his ashes out in Moreton Bay.
By 1841, Robert Dixon and James Warner had promoted the idea of Cleveland becoming a port. Influential squatters on the Darling Downs were keen on this idea, with Ipswich to be the capital, and a road created from there to Cleveland as the main port. The Dixon map of 1842 indicates that Cleveland, even at this early time, was a proposed port. Also in 1842, Governor George Gipps got stuck in the mud at Cleveland, trying to make his way to the shore. He was there to see if Cleveland could become the main port of Moreton Bay, but he got so annoyed that he refused to consider Cleveland any further. But that didn't stop local do-gooders trying to make it into a port. Cleveland was proclaimed a township in December 1850. Some warehouses and a stone jetty were built. However, business interests in Brisbane preferred for Brisbane to be the capital and the main port. The burning of the cargo ship Courier at Cleveland, carrying wool and coconut oil, was quite possibly an act of sabotage by Brisbane businessmen, and it spelled the end of Cleveland as a viable port.
Right in front of me is Ross Creek. This is very interesting. Down this way is where the old bridge used to be. I think I've found the spot where the bridge probably crossed over Ross Creek. However, just behind me there, where I really wanted to shoot this segment, there are dingbats. There are always dingbats wherever I want to be. The dingbats have gone. So right about here, best estimate is this is where the bridge was, connecting the road from Ipswich and Coopers Plains up to Cleveland. You can see on this map it shows the old little bridge, and I made a video about that old road from at least the Coopers Plains section from there up to Cleveland. I walked that a few years ago. Ross Creek, this flows out into Raby Bay. There's an old photograph I found of Ross Creek entering Raby Bay before all of the canal development. This is my map. I'm going to put it down here in the umbrella. I am here. This is roughly where the bridge was, so I'm going to head up to another old train station, Cleveland Central. And it looks like an old garage over there. Well, it's still in operation. Well, that's nice, but I think I've got to go down Shore Street. Doctor's House. Here we go. I've heard of this one. The land was granted to John Lumsden in 1852. This charming Victorian cottage was a doctor's surgery until the 1930s. First doctor, well, he was an ex-convict who became a prominent citizen, a member of the Legislative Council. The Legislative Council, the Queensland Legislative Council, it's kind of like the village bicycle. Everybody had a ride. A guy got swooped by a magpie just down the road there, and now he's dead.
The Cleveland State School opened in 1868. However, it was originally sited on North Street between the Grandview Hotel and St Paul's Anglican Church. A school inspector of the time remarked of the students at the Cleveland School, saying, the manners of the children are frivolous and uncouth. The girls show an unseemly tendency to giggle. The school moved to its present site in 1915.
So this is the Cleveland War Memorial. It was unveiled in 1920. And if I come around this side, you might notice that the top of the column is broken. And I believe it's to symbolise lives cut short. And I've never seen that before on a war memorial. Building just behind me over there is the former police station. So just finishing up at the war memorial, and I've got my map and looking to see where I go next. It's the old Cleveland Central train station, which is just over there, so I've got to get across this road, which is Shaw Street West. Redlands Council put out their own Heritage Trail map, but I didn't think much of it, so I've made my own. This is the Anzac Centenary Park, and round about here where I'm standing was the site of the original Cleveland train station. This was opened in 1889. A little bit later, the line was extended further up towards Cleveland Point, and they made a new Cleveland station up there, which meant that this couldn't be Cleveland Station, so it became Cleveland West Station. And then in 1914, it became Cleveland Central Station. And then the whole line closed in 1960. Another war memorial though, they've got the nice one over there. This is nice too, but two war memorials on either side of the intersection, just above where Cleveland Central train station used to be. Pardon me. Beautifully set out. There's a nest up there on top of that pole. I don't know if you can see it. And it looks like a little eagle or a kestrel or something. I'm now on Shaw Street East, and believe it or not, this area down here, this really quiet little backwater of Cleveland, this is where Cleveland began. This is the old 1850s, 1860s settlement, and it's looking a little worse for wear in some parts. And there's a house that's gone there, and there's another one over there that's full of graffiti and abandoned. And I've noticed it's not just the magpies that are all agitated at the moment because it's spring. The plovers, the masked lapwings, are all having hysterics, and the native minor birds are going ballistic. There's some old houses here, but one of them is called Fernley. Well, the land was sold in the 1850s, I think it was 1851, so the house probably dates, the earliest parts, from the 1860s. And that's Fernley over there. So we're just coming up to Cross Street, and over there, on the other side, is the church. So 1873, it's only a little church, and closed of course, it's a Monday morning. It was extended in 1924 by the addition of the porch. The windows are just a little bit too tall for me to look inside, so I'm going to extend the camera up and see what I can find. The new Anglican church behind it, built in the 80s. I prefer the old one. The Grandview Hotel is just in front of me, but here is Queensland's oldest banyan tree. I'm now at the point in the journey where I come to the most iconic and famous part of Cleveland, and I'm building dramatic tension because for some reason I'm standing behind this fig tree. There it is over there. Grandview Hotel. It is Queensland's oldest licensed pub. So here's some very well researched information from me about the Grandview Hotel.
The Grandview Hotel was built in 1851 by Francis Edward Bigg and was originally known as the Brighton Hotel. Bigg was from Northumberland in England, and he believed fervently that Cleveland would become a major port, and he invested a lot of his own money into helping make that happen. In September 1856, John Cassam, more on him in a moment, took over the Brighton Hotel and opened it as a boarding house, specifically for invalids and families. He ran the hotel until about 1862, when he moved to his own premises, the Cleveland Hotel. The second story to the Brighton Hotel was added in about 1900, most likely due to increased traffic as a result of the nearby railway line. It changed its name to the Grandview Hotel in 1910.
Decided to get some lunch here at the Grandview Hotel, and I know what I'm going to get. Hello.
How are you going, sir?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, pretty well, thank you.
Just going to grab a pizza if I may.
Yes, no worries.
Down here.
I'll get someone that knows how to work the till.
Oh, okay.
Someone will be with you at the moment.
Sure, no worries. Bit of thunder now. Believe it or not, this building here used to be a mid-19th century hotel. It was called the Cleveland Hotel. It was founded by John Vincent Cassim. He was a convict who was from Mauritius. In fact, there's Cassim Island just off the coast here that's named after him. This was one of the most popular hotels here in Cleveland. The Grandview Hotel is literally just over that way. It's almost next door. It was damaged in a storm in 1929. The roof got blown off, and according to this sign here, it was a tree that was hurled into the building during the storm. Then it became flats, and then it was derelict for many years. Drive past it, you wouldn't even think that this was once a very historic old hotel. Good day sunshine, finally getting a little bit of light. Now it's too hot. Vacant block of land here, but it's a nice view from up there. Oh yeah, very nice. Moving along Shore Street North, there's some stuff over there, which I'll get to in a moment. But on the right, just ahead of me, are two very, very tall pine trees. I'm at 127 Shore Street North, Norfolk Pines homes here. But they're named after these two very tall and very old Norfolk pines. If you can see them on camera, they're going all the way up. Twin pines. These were apparently, it is believed, planted in the 1860s by Francis Bigg. And also, sailors out on Moreton Bay would use these two Norfolk pines as a landmark for their navigation. So that's those. Right across the road is a collection of old buildings. They're all lined up neatly and conveniently. I'll start at the end and work my way along. Station Master's Cottage, circa 1889. So this was the one that was down at that Anzac Memorial Park, the one where I was looking for the train station on that flat ground. The Station Master's house was somewhere near there, because it says Cleveland Central. What do we got here? Are you a lover of craft? Nope. Coffee chat. I don't drink coffee. Lovely. 1889. I've got another one here. Actually, two. These are now art galleries. First Schoolmaster's House, 1872 to 1915. And there it is there, originally sited between Grandview Hotel and St Paul's Anglican Church. The old Schoolmaster's House. Great little art gallery they got here. I think they're all local artists. Ye olde toilet block. There's an information board here. What do we got? Site of Cleveland Point Railway Station. When the railway was extended to the point in 1897, allowed ordinary people without other means of transport to enjoy the seaside fashionable pier. So what that means is right here, or hereabouts, was the site of the last train station to be built on the train line heading up here towards Cleveland Point. Leaving the art gallery, and that can only mean one thing, the moment you've all been looking forward to. No, not that bit. The old courthouse, and it's just up ahead. Heading north along Shore Street North, but I've looked into this hedge just off to the side here, and I can see what I think are some old railway sleepers. Looks like they've been repurposed here as a retaining wall. Look. Well, they've got to be railway sleepers. They've got the nail holes in them where the big bolts and rivets went in. Courthouse Restaurant, circa 1853. This was built by Francis Bigg. It was originally a accommodation for local workers and became a house. And then Bigg, he loaned it out or rented it out to the government as a police station and lock-up and I think place for, obviously trials, courthouse and things like that.
Eventually it was in a bad state of decay but was restored in the 1960s. From 1977 it became a restaurant. Apparently there's a ghost there.
Discover the dark heart of the capital of the Sunshine State on the Bloody Brisbane CBD Crime Tour. Visit true crime scenes including the last public execution, the Regent Theatre shootout, the arcade murder, wartime crime and the lady who vanished. Join me, Jack Sim, and my team of guides to discover Brisbane's criminal history. Book a public or private tour at crimetoursaustralia.com.au.
So now I'm here at the courthouse and moving north further up to Cleveland Point. Making good progress up towards Cleveland Point. There is an old house here. It's called Seaforth Cottage, circa 1882. Seaforth. I'm sure you've noticed the change in weather. I was shooting on the Monday and the day was a bit iffy to begin with, a little bit sunny, a little bit cloudy, but it wasn't too bad. By lunchtime, when I was at the Grandview Hotel, the clouds rolled in, and by the time I got to Cleveland Point, it was pouring. So I've come back today, Tuesday, to get a few more shots. I missed some yesterday. And round about where I'm standing here, this is where, according to this old map, this is where the mainland kind of finished, because it was all mudflats around here. The more solid land appeared just a little bit further over that way. You can see it on the map here, how the peninsula, the very northern part of Cleveland Point, was actually an island. Today, of course, as you can see, it's all been filled in and joined up and the mudflats have been built over. Aren't old maps wonderful? I love them. I love old maps. Look at that weird sap coming out of this pine tree. I've never seen anything like that before. This is Raby Bay, named by surveyor James Warner in honour of the Duke of Cleveland, who was also known as Baron Raby. It was in 1986 that the canal developments were begun here at Raby Bay. The whole process was completed by 1997. Just approaching the tip of Cleveland Point now. Back in the mid-19th century, this was known as Emu Point. Back that way you had Cassim's Hotel, which was the Cleveland Hotel, and you also had the Grand View, but there was a third hotel here at Cleveland, a very old one. It was known as the Pier Hotel. It was built in 1852 and it burned down in 1936. This is it, the Pier Hotel. There's a photo. That photo was taken in 1903. No doubt someone climbed up the lighthouse. We've got a fish and chip shop here, and restaurant, bar and cafe. There we have it, the Cleveland Lighthouse, built in 1864. It wasn't originally on the site here though. It was a little bit further up, just 20-30 metres away at the tip of Cleveland Point. It was moved here in 1975. It's incredible to think what might have happened if the port had actually gone ahead here at Cleveland. If it had, today this may be all warehouses and wharves and office buildings and huge luxury apartments. How things change and what might have been. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It really does help the channel. I'll see you again on my next walk. Just heading back from Cleveland Point, and this is really amazing. This sign here has only just appeared in the last 24 hours. I came past here literally yesterday and they had one of the old green and white signs, which was right about here. I'm coming back and suddenly there's a new sign talking about the Cleveland Hotel. Hi, Stephen's mum.